All right, so today I wanted to talk about this story out of NASDAQ.com, and it's titled Canada Shits Jobs for Seventh Straight Month in September. And it goes on to say um, Canada lost 240,800 jobs in September, extending a run of declines that began in March. A report from payroll services provider ADP showed on Thursday, with last month's decline paced by the trade, transportation, and utilities sector. The August data was revised to show jobs declined by 770,600 rather than by 205,400. The report, which was derived from ADP's payrolls data, measures the change in total non-farm payroll employment each month on a seasonally adjusted basis. And then I think there's a little more there, but that's the meat of the article anyway. So, why is this so important? Because this is exactly what I've been saying: is that things aren't just going to go back to normal. This is the big one of the I mean endless fallacies and just absolute insane beliefs of the people who support the lockdowns, in that they think that we can just flip a switch on and off, that all these jobs and the entire economy as a whole can just be flipped on like a light switch. But that's not how it works. And here's the thing: the first thing that they get wrong is that when they hear the economy is getting worse or the economy is getting better, they immediately jump to the oh, the economy, you mean the big corporations and the millionaires and the billionaires, right? Like, but that's not how it works, right? Because the economy got a lot worse over the last 6 months, but the billionaires most of them made money, right? So this idea that the economy, it only affects the billionaires and the really rich people is complete bunk. Because I mean, for the simple reason being is that rich people tend to be rich for a reason, and usually when a bad economy happens, they figure out ways to make money. So the point I wanted to get at is the reality is that the people that are being hit the hardest are the middle class. And here's the reason why they think that this stuff doesn't matter. They think that it doesn't matter because in their mind, if people lose their jobs, the government can just pay them not to work, right? The government can just print money and pay them not to work. And as insane as that sounds, that's what these people believe. So again, let's just get that out of the way, from the start. So the meat of the issue here is, like I said, things aren't just going to go back to normal. The negative ramifications of this of the lockdowns is going to be felt for years, maybe even decades. Like, to be honest, and here's the thing: like, we're not even out of it at this point. Like, we already have a lot of people panicking, thinking we're in this terrible second wave. Like, for all we know, there'll be other ones, right? And here's the thing: we're not actually in a terrible second wave. There is an increase in cases, but it's nothing we should be worried about. We still should be pretty much back to normal, pretty much living a day-to-day life. And anybody who wants to be paranoid, go ahead and be paranoid. Just don't make other people adhere to your paranoia. That's pretty much what should be happening right now. I mean, nursing homes should probably have some restrictions, but when it comes to um, the average person, anybody under 60 or so, and even older people that are healthy, they still have nothing to worry about either. The only people that have anything to worry about are people that are over about 70 years old and have serious underlying health conditions. Because you look at Alberta, you look at most areas, the median age of people dying from this is in like 80. Early, I think Alberta, it's like 82, 83. The average person lives to be like 80, 81, 82. So the people that are dying from this are people that are already at the average life expectancy. So in all reality, it's killing people that are going to die very, very soon anyway, right? So again, that's just something to point out too. That the argument doesn't make any sense. Like the pro law, none of the pro lockdown arguments make any sense whatsoever. Um, so again, and like I say too, that um, the problem that the anti or sorry the pro lockdown crowd has is that they genuinely believe that the government can just flip a switch and everything can go back to normal, right? Like, they genuinely believe that, and that is the problem. That's not how it works. When you shut down a business and a lot of these businesses are forced to shut down. They don't just magically come back later. That when a business shuts down, it's gone. Like especially in a bad economy too, it ain't coming back. It ain't coming back. And this is the thing that I pointed out before too, is that people think that we were doing well too, as a like prior to this whole pandemic situation, we had consecutive quarters of 0.3 and 0.1% growth. So the reality is that we were already within inches, millimeters of being in a recession even before the pandemic. Even before the pandemic. So this is what people don't realize. We are going to recover out of this into a recession, right? Like we are going to recover into a recession. The lengths that it's going to take to get back to a normal economy, like an actual normal economy where there's actually at least 2-3% growth, which I don't even know if Canada had under Justin Trudeau. I think we averaged like 1% under Justin Trudeau, which is absolutely terrible. It's pitiful. I mean, if you adjust for all the money printing, we probably would have been negative. But nonetheless, people don't realize just how bad things are going to be in a lot of ways. Now, here's the thing too, like you see people out there too that they talk about, oh, things are fine for me, things are fine in this industry and that industry. Well, they're fun. Number one, they're not fun. We still have double digit unemployment, especially in Alberta. Alberta is one of the highest provinces, I think. So things are not fine, right? Like things are not the only reason that things appear fine is the amount of money the governments are printing and the debt. If the governments weren't allowed to run deficits, or at the very least, they weren't allowed to run deficits larger than the average year, we would be in a Great Depression right now. We would literally be in a Great Depression, worse than a Great Depression, because it would be on a much larger scale. People don't realize just how bad things could be. Like the federal government has racked up $500 billion in debt just to keep. I mean, look at this. We have double digit unemployment. We have negative growth, even while the government's running a $500 billion deficit. And that's just the federal government. That's not even including the provinces. When you add up the provinces, it's probably, you know, $750 billion. Who knows? But that's the thing, is that even with all this terrible stuff that's going, like I say, that as the title says, we've shed jobs for 7 straight months, or at least net jobs, and that's with all the money printing. Like I say, people don't realize just how bad things are. And here's the thing: people that begs the question, well, why are things so bad? Well, things are so bad because we have a federal government, and the provincial governments deserve their fair share of blame too. But the federal government could care less about growth and creating jobs. Like they could care less, for the simple reason being, if they did, they would have did it by now. Like they've been in power for going on 6 years. I don't remember exactly when the election was in 2015, but at least 5 years. And I mean, they're still blaming Harper for stuff, which is laughable. But nonetheless, um, they've done hardly anything. And this is the thing too, that like I mentioned too, that people actually think that, oh, things were fine prior to the pandemic. All this terrible stuff that's going on right now, it's because of the no, it isn't because of the pandemic. That couldn't be more irrelevant. Number one, the virus situation didn't cause the vast majority of the negative. Like if we would have did what, looking back on it, the solution clearly was not to close anything down. No businesses should have been closed down. There should have been no mask mandates. Um, the solution was, let's have restrictions on nursing homes and let the rest of the people go about their day-to-day lives with maybe some very minor restrictions. Right? The economy still would have been hurt a little bit, but not by that much. But not by that much. And that's the thing that people don't recognize too. But it's like I say too, that we were already very close to being in a recession. So that's the problem. We probably would have been in a recession either way at some point. But now this is the problem, that we are going to recover out of this situation, most likely, because again, I don't think there's any way of knowing for sure, but we're going to most likely recover out of this into a recession with a terrible credit rating as a country, massive deficits, you know, hardly any jobs, right? Like there's very few jobs out there right now, and a lot of the ones that are out there, there's so much competition going into getting them that it's kind of futile in getting a job these days, and that's the big problem. And this is I think the biggest problem is that most people just don't care. Like, I mean, the people watching this probably are exceptions to the rule, I would definitely acknowledge, but when you talk to the average person, they don't care that much. Like the average person they're mad about the situation. They're mad about the pandemic situation. They're mad about that, but they don't want to implement any actual solution that's actually going to do anything, that's actually going to create lasting change, right? Like, if anything, the average person's, oh, we need a UBI, right? We need a UBI, which is absolutely insane. There's no possible way we could pay for it without running insane deficits. It doesn't matter who you tax. Again, one of the other massive fallacies of the left is that they genuinely believe that if you just raise taxes on the rich, that we could pay for all the free stuff that you can imagine. No, that wouldn't even come close. But anyway, like I say, I know I'm kind of jumping around topic to topic, but the main point of this being is that um, I talk to a lot of people who, when you bring this kind of stuff up, they're way too optimistic. Now, again, I'm not I don't believe in optimism or pessimism. I believe in realism, right? I believe in realism. You have to be real. You have to be honest with yourself. You can't sit there and pretend that reality isn't reality. And this is the problem too, that you talk to a lot of people and they're like, I mean, you talk to an older person, they're retired, they don't really care, right? Like, they don't really care. If they did, if older people actually cared about the next generation, they would be perfectly fine with their pensions being cut and with benefits being cut, or one or the other at the very least, right? But since the vast majority of them aren't okay with that, they don't actually care about the next generation as much as they like to claim. Yeah, so that's the big, and not to mention too, you have all these government workers and all the people whose jobs wasn't overly affected, which isn't lots of people, but it's a pretty good amount that they don't care. Like, they don't care. Like, you talk to some of these teachers and they're not all of them. There's definitely exceptions to the rule, but teachers are some of the most entitled, probably one of the most entitled occupations that exist, for the simple reason being is that on one hand they constantly complain about and mock the people that think that they don't work, but on the they don't work that much or that hard. But on the flip side, whenever you propose any competition, they're vehemently against it, which is a rather contradictory point in that if your job's so hard and you're so good at your job and you're worth the money you're being paid, especially when you include all the benefits that you get, then you wouldn't be afraid of the competition. But given the fact that you are afraid of the competition, then yeah, it goes to show that you're probably not as good at your job as what you like to think. So anyway, like I said, I kind of jumped around a lot of topics, but like I said, the main point being is that things are a lot worse than what the average person thinks. And I guess I would leave it off by saying, a lot of people saying, well, you shouldn't do so much criticism. You should offer up solutions, which I do. I always offer up solutions. People always conveniently ignore that. But the solutions are, they're actually rather simple. Now, the problem is that it's going to take a long time for things to get back to what is actually considered reasonable. That's the problem. But the solutions are, we should get rid of the vast majority. 95% of the regulations and the lockdown measures are completely pointless. They should absolutely be gotten rid of tomorrow. That's the first thing that needs to be done. The next thing that needs to be done is we need to deregulate, right? Like, as far as the economy goes, we need to deregulate. There is way too many regulations that kill jobs, that kill wage growth. That's the second point. The third point, we have to cut immigration massively. There is no reason to have immigration if unemployment is anything above a very small amount, anything above 3-4% tops. No reason whatsoever to have immigration. No reason whatsoever. Other things that could be done, I think we need to make it a lot easier to start and operate a business. There, like I say, way too many regulations. There's way too much red tape. The tax system should be massively simplified. Um, the vast majority of people should be able to do their own taxes, right? And this is one of the many problems as well, is that the tax system is so complicated that most accountants and quote unquote experts don't even understand it, because it's like, what, 3-4 thousand pages. So of course no one's going to understand it, and it's deliberately made that way so that the government can exploit people that way. Again, so those are some of the main. Not to mention, I think taxes have to be cut at some point. They probably can't be cut anytime soon because the deficit's so high. But some forms of taxes should be, like property taxes should be cut, and if not outright abolished. I mean, income taxes should be massively simplified, and I think massively averaged out, I think. But again, those are some of the things off the top of my head that I always mention when it comes to solutions to these problems. But the biggest problem isn't not offering up solutions. The biggest problem is the fact that the vast majority of people would never go for the solutions that are going to fix the problem in the long run. The problem with people nowadays, and when it comes to politics, is that the whatever is the quick fix. Like as a society, we're addicted to quick fixes. We're addicted to get rich quick kind of things. And that the problem with quick fixes is that they fix the problem in the here and now, but they only make the problem worse in the long run. Right? Like a UBI, perfect example. It would fix the problem of poverty and people not being able to pay their bills right now. The problem is that in the long run, there's no way to make it work. There's no way to make it work because you can't. There's no possible way that you can tax enough or spend enough to make it worth it. There's no possible way. It's not possible. I've never seen anybody provide math that can even come close to paying for it. So again, that's an example that I would just wanted to give. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Make sure you follow me on BitChute, Parler. All those links are in the description. Like I say, people always bring up, well, what can we do to make a change? Well, like I say, the two big things are make your voices heard, stop being afraid to speak up, and support people that are speaking the truth as much as you possibly can. As much as you possibly can, you have to support people that are speaking the truth. So those are the big things.